Welcome to Chit Chats with me, Thea the Great. No relation to Alexander. I'm sorry, I should stop saying that because honestly, this week I want to discuss my previous session with my therapist. In this session, we was discussing reframing. So reframing is basically like cognitive dissonance, where you're basically taking, for example, you're saying one scenario, you say, I'm so disappointed in myself because I spent too much money. And you reframe it and you say, I'm actually very proud of myself because I was able to save that money to use it for what I wanted to experience. So that's what I worked on this week with my Miss PhD. And it was a great experience. My homework for this week was to reframe my views of men and my viewpoint of men and my idea of men. Because I have a very negative relationship with men, so I'm gonna start from the beginning. My father ditched me and my sister in the States with our mothers to go to a different country to make a brand new family because he's Muslim. And this is his excuse. I know that Muslim people, Islamic people are not like this. My father just doesn't practice it the correct way. Anyway, my father wanted to create a new family where the kids will grow up Muslim and they will grow up in a mosque, they grow up in the Islamic way, in the Islamic faith, and he'll be able to have his wives. He didn't like that I told him, after seeing him 19 years later, he didn't like that I told him that he probably shouldn't make a new family if he's not gonna take care of the two kids he abandoned to begin with. But I digress. So I have daddy issues, basically is what I'm saying. And with these daddy issues come my distrust in men. I really don't want to say my hatred of men because I don't hate men. I just don't like the way they behave and I don't like the things that they say. I don't like when they talk. This seems like I do hate men. Anyway, oh my God. I don't hate men. I just dislike the way they behave. So this week with my homework, I am supposed to reframe my idea of men. So to begin, I guess I would say my idea of men are that they're wicked, they're manipulative, they're womanizers, homophobic, misogynistic, mean. But on a broader scheme, I have to think about why I feel this way. I feel this way because my father was he is all those things. He's not dead. He's just in the air somewhere. And I've never met a fascinating man in my life. I haven't had relationships with men where I'm like, damn, you are actually one of the most fascinating people I've ever met. It's so rare that I meet a person that is on the level of, like, I don't know men that are just fascinating. So I also have to dive back and I have to realize maybe my idea of fascination is perhaps my idea of men and my dislike of men stems from my father. Correct. Why is it that I take that same anger and I take those same defense mechanisms that I have towards my father and I apply it to men that come into my life? Daddy issues. It all comes down to my daddy issues. So I have to work on that part of my mindset. So in reframing the way that I think about men, she made me recognize that, and I wrote this down, you recognize, not excuse, the challenges men face. And in parentheses, I put black men because I mainly deal with black men. Why am I out of breath? So basically, my homework for this week was to express my thoughts and feelings about men. So when I write these things out, let's just say, when my father left, I felt ... So when my father left, at first I was relieved. And I'm gonna say I was relieved because my father was a very overwhelming man once he got into his faith. And it was a lot for me to adapt to. And I was also going through a phase where I didn't believe I was beautiful. I didn't have confidence in myself. And I was in the 6th grade. That's when he left me. I was like 10 or 11 years old. So it was an adjustment and I was infuriated at the same time. So I was relieved yet infuriated because he was once my best friend. And then he turned into my biggest enemy because he left me. And I remember extending grace to him when he finally came back 19 years later. The grace that I should have extended to my mother when my mother stayed and she did the best that she could with 5 children. Mind you, all 5 of those children are not my father's, but that's besides the point. So she wants me to get very specific about my feelings. And My feelings towards my father are complicated because I loved him so much at one point, and he was my world. He was everything to me, and I was his world. But I have to recognize that he left me for his own selfish needs. But I also have to recognize that he's human. But I don't have to excuse the fact that he left his child. My mother is also human, and my mother didn't abandon any of her children. So my homework for this week, like I said, was to reframe my idea of how I perceive men. I don't have the best relationship with men because I do have very deep-rooted, deep-seated issues with my father that I know needs to be discussed. I will probably never be able to discuss it with him, but I can discuss it in therapy. And I will say that I'm enjoying therapy so much. I haven't had a therapist that actually gives me valuable feedback in a long time. So my therapist before, my therapist now, just agreed with me. And I loved her to death, but I didn't need someone to agree with me. I needed someone to give me constructive feedback. My therapist now, Miss PhD, she gives me constructive feedback. She makes me reframe my mindset, reframe my thought process. I didn't even know what reframing was until she said that, because I was beating myself up for the past week because I took 3 vacations. I went to Belize, I went to Punta Cana, and I went to New Orleans. And I had enough money for each trip, but I came back to nothing. And I felt very disappointed in myself because I felt that I should have had more in regards to funds. She made me reframe my mindset and say, I'm actually proud of myself because I was able to take 3 vacations, an experience that most people, even though it shouldn't matter what other people are doing, but most Americans aren't able to do this and still come back to a job that they like and love. So I changed my mindset. I had to reframe. I love the idea of reframing. Reframing in this past week has changed who I am. Usually I'm like pinching pennies, and I'm like, oh no, I'm so broke and I'm like destitute and I stay in the house. I just went out with Ariel for no reason at all. We went to the soup factory and TJ Maxx just to walk around, and we got frozen yogurt at Yogurt Beach. I think that's what it was called in Newton. So reframing has changed my way of life, and I hope it can change yours as well. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And honestly, if this hit a nerve for you, or if this made you think about how you need to reframe things in your mind, comment down below. Let's have a discussion. Bye.